Hello there, and welcome back here to the HGC Western Clash. We are going into game number 2 between Team Dignitas and Misfits, and game number 1 was, well, about as close as it gets. Tetraman, what do you think we'll see here on the next map, or what map do you think we'll see next?
Both of these teams are very versatile on all of the maps they can choose. I really don't think that preferences are going to be hugely important to them. Like Dignitas, like J-House said, had that little Towers of Doom thing, which Misfits maybe weren't, but all of these teams have practiced all of the maps. I believe J-House might have some stats in terms of what might be a preferred.
I have stats, but I just feel like we're going to see Tomb and the Spider Queen because it's Europe. That's what they do. It is their go-to.
To be honest, I guess they're going to go for first pick here. I don't really think that this picking a certain map is hugely important, especially for these teams. If we were looking at the lower levels of any of the NA or European ladder, I feel like going on to a specific map and trying to just bust out a comp is way more common. But on this level, you have to be really familiar with all of the maps. So I feel it's going to be a first pick scenario that we're seeing here instead of getting the map in.
Well, we do know Warhead and Braxis Holdout are the bans, and we just saw Towers of Doom won by Misfits. Now, we'll find out what the game number 2 battleground will be.
Infernal Shrine. So just going standard here. We see it in basically all of our series. It's a solid map. Everyone's comfortable with it. It gives way to, especially for Maina, to play some of his mages just due to the incredible AoE damage he can do on those shrines.
Dredd talked about this yesterday, as Dignitas' success rate on this map alone throughout, basically for the last year, is astronomical.
Yeah.
I think he said something upwards of 90% win rate. And in the HGC, 5 games played, 4 games won. So they don't have, but that's the exact same stat for Misfits. They've only dropped one game on this. Both of them had played 5 times.
I'm going to chime in on this because I know exactly the game that Dignitas lost on this map. And it was in the first week, and what they did there was draft one of the most horrible compositions
Was that the Stitches game?
That was a Stitches game. I was sitting with other players, we were sitting in voicemail talking about the composition, and we were just saying okay guys, the only thing they can really do here is try to go for the hook, get the Gorge in, they had a false comp as well, get the Gust in, and then get the kill. And then 10 comes in, and they take Putrid Bile. The rage,
I remember this game now.
The rage in voice chat was unbelievable. Everybody got so mad and was just like, how are they thinking they can kill anything here? And they lost, and I don't think they got a single kill in the game. It was abysmal. So after that, and that's exactly what we talked about earlier. After that, they changed the drafting a lot.
Yeah, they haven't played Stitches since.
They changed the entire approach.
It's almost like you just kind of expunge it, like that never really happened, just please don't address that.
If we remove all the evidence, no one will ever know.
They said the next day immediately, guys, this was horrible, we need to change our approach a little bit, this is not us. And they did since then. So basically, after that faux pas, they never lost on Infernal Shrines.
That is correct, yes.
All right.
So let's transition to talk about shrines and the meta that we have here. I mean, a lot of the players were talking about the potential of Greymane rising in the meta with the new Heroic, and yes, Gilman Cocktail has always been a great way to get those last hits. Definitely an option, but more so what we see the variations in is the melee. Equinox played Kerrigan already. Sonya has really risen in this meta. Where do you think those heroes will stand?
Bad. For 2 reasons. Diablo, Varian. Both excel. They both have point-and-click stuns, basically. Diablo's a little bit different. But you run into the problem of Kerrigan and Sonya. Kerrigan goes to Whirlwind. You have instant stun. Sonya becomes vulnerable. Same for Kerrigan. So the melees in that traditional sense tend to fall off a little bit against these 2 teams. And I think that's why Kerrigan in a game last night, they were probably a little bit more comfortable. That's why we don't see as much Kerrigan. So if people are wondering about that, that's a big reason why.
And we have to point out that the Kerrigan in the game we saw last from Misfits, the very first map that they picked, and they lost with it. They picked Kerrigan as first pick, which, yes, it's a great shrine clearer. It's great in terms of burst damage and trying to pick people off. But, like you said, the current tanks that are really good are good at countering her.
We have to give Dartmouth a little bit of credit, though. In that first game, they thought they had an easy win, and he went full YOLO. I remember a couple of times when he went over the wall and said, I can still get this kill.
There was such a great move in that game where Muradin jumped over the wall as well just to tank the shot so Dartmouth could get out. That was sick.
I wonder, Misfits has actually been the team that has run Sylvanas the most, and Sylvanas tends to disappear a lot for a lot of teams. But I think in 6 games, they've played it in all but 1.
Yeah, and they played it on shrines earlier in this tournament. But, I'm really curious. One of my favorite things in all of esports is hearing the thoughts about the competition and the meta from the pro teams. So let's take a look at what Team Dignitas thinks.
Last year, I Am Katowice, we actually won it. So to come back here again for a big Heroes tournament where we have a real shot at winning feels great. I've seen the stage. It looks even better than last year, so I'm really excited to get on there and play. We prepared really hard for this event. We boot camped in Berlin in the Case King boot camp, and that was a really positive experience for our team. It was the first time with this lineup of 5 that we've really gotten to be together in person and really just work towards improving. I think the favorites of this tournament are the big 3 from Europe. So we've got Misfits, who are probably most people's expectation. I personally don't agree with that so much. Fnatic, obviously a very strong team as well, and us, Team Dignitas. The big difference for us in this tournament is that we're bringing a coach. We recently brought on Dunktrain to try out as our coach, and so far it's been a really positive experience, and I think that's going to be the edge that we need.
Team Dignitas, a group of legends, the champions here, the reigning champions trying to defend their title, but currently down 0-1 in this series to Misfits. I mean, we're seeing a lot of diversity out of them. Ever since they added Xaylia to the roster, the Arthas being his most played hero, they're such an interesting team.
Xaylia, especially when he came in at the beginning, his hero pool just exploded so crazily when they themselves at some point said, we need to focus, we need to narrow his pool a little bit more so that he actually has time to practice all these heroes. He himself said that one of his biggest problems was he needed to buy all the new heroes and actually play them to 5 first of all, that he can jump in Hero League with them. So that was an issue.
You know,
Did they even joke that his Arthas was still level 1?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
His Arthas is literally level 1 because he has only played it in custom games where you don't earn experience, yet it's his most played hero in pro matches, like as of on Dignitas, but it's insane.
It's how you do it. It's the new meta. It's like if you're trying to learn a new role, you just never play it in Hero League and you only play it in custom games.
No one will ever see it coming.
Although, if you
No
guys
one's looking
actually
at match
remember
history.
the interview not too long ago with Mene, it was talking about like he plays all day, he goes through scrims, and then he goes and whatever hero he struggled on, he goes and plays in Quick Match or Hero League and things like that. And that's why he's actually like every time we have a global event, he goes to a new region, he hits Grandmaster. That's crazy. That's how good he is.
He does play a lot of quick match as well, like you said, and he's always practicing a new hero or something different. He's always experimenting.
One of the things when we're talking about Mena that I want to chip in real quickly is we are now on Infernal Shrines, and one of the heroes that Mena loves the most and wanted to bring back for months now is actually Kael'thas. And Kael'thas is one of the heroes that with the current meta that we have starts to make more and more sense again, because in the last game we saw a triple melee composition, and it's more common that that happens. And the more melee warriors or the more melee heroes you have on the opponent's side, the more value Kael'thas gets with any kind of bomb build. So this is something that we could at some point see.
Yep.
Usually his team prefers other playstyles, but that is definitely something that they can pull at some point.
We're on Infernal Shrines, which you could argue that it is Kael'thas' best map.
Yep.
Yeah.
However, he hasn't played him yet this season, so
Yeah.
I mean, definitely capable of playing it.
He
But that
wants
could
to.
be one of those new stats. Like again, Karazim, first pick for Bakery, which is like it's crazy to think that was his first time playing Karazim in this tournament. That'd be cool to see the Kael'thas busted out, because has he been played yet this weekend?
I don't think he's been played much at all in a while.
In Latin
Kael'thas.
America and
Karazim.
ANZ. I meant to take Kael'thas. Kael'thas, yeah. He does see a little bit of play from some teams. He's even seen some play in North America, but it's still a rare ranged assassin.
Yeah, I mean, the most I see Kael'thas is when Breeze talks about him.
It's definitely a very situational pick right now. It's not like
Yeah.
one of those heroes where you said, okay, we have to be worried about this at this point. We're going to ban it out against them. So it's not something you're going to bust out every game. But if your opponent's composition is just right, you're still missing the hero for main, and you feel like, okay, this could fit, then it's an option at least. And he would love to play it. Like, this is actually the trademark hero that also like brought him into the scene back when he was playing with Lowell and the rest from Liquid. So this is a really key hero for him.
Speaking of situational heroes, I would love to expand on what Jay House said earlier about the Sylvanas on this map. It has been played by Misfits on and off quite a bit. The reason it's not picked as often as we used to see it, or sometimes, is it's a hero that excels if you're winning. If you're losing, it loses about 80% of its value and becomes a lot harder, which is why most teams will take it if they have a team that gains an early game advantage, like, for example, the Kerrigan, which we've also seen Misfits play. But if they're not 100% sure, then it's sometimes not worth it because you can just get ruined.
Misfits always seems to find a way to make it work in any situation, though, whether it's like the sickest wailing arrows you can imagine. They make the Sylph work for sure. But Tetra, I wanted to ask you, like, I mean, although we're talking about the potential for Mene playing Kael'thas, we've seen this kind of stun-heavy combo, very team fight-oriented control from Misfits. And Kael'thas used to excel in that, in the rotations for some maps. Would you expect it out of them at all?
I think they would prefer something along the lines of Jaina or something like that, a Gul'dan, if they had the choice. Maina, I think, is just a player who excels to the point of exception on Kael'thas, so I think it's a bit more likely we see it out of him than we see it out of Misfits.
You know, we're speaking about Misfits a lot. I want to hear them speak for a moment, so let's take a look at an interview with the players of Misfits.
Confident. We are coming to the LAN event without a single loss. We have 7-0 in the online phase, and we all feel very good in the team. We prepared quite a lot for IM Katowice. It is basically our daily routine. We play 6 to 8 hours a day of scrims, and for Katowice, obviously, we are scouting our opponents. We try to figure out their weaknesses, what kind of style they like to play, and then we try to exploit it, so it's a bit easier for us in the drafting. I can't really go into details too much, but we have some drafts prepared that might be special or something, but overall I think it's just important that every single player shows a very good game by us, and I think we have a good shot then winning.
Misfits really considered by many to be the #1 team here in this competition, but yet to be proven. Looking very strong. We are indeed preparing for game #2 between Misfits and Dignitas, but unfortunately one of our players is still feeling quite ill, and we're giving them a moment to, well, try to feel better. We're gonna go to another commercial break, and we'll be back in just a few.
Another round?
In the beginning. Wait a minute, that's not... Hold on. In our most desperate hour. Whoops! No, way too far! Oh, hello again. Or is this the first time we've met? You might ask why, as a dragon, would I choose to be this size? Meh, it just works for me. I'm here to keep the very fabric of time and space from unraveling like that. Everyone knows it's not possible to be in several places at the same time. The past you, future you, and future super creepy you? That's different times at the same place, and that's when it gets fun. Don't worry, that's gonna get nerfed. Let's review. Through all time and space, there's more power hidden in the smallest things than you will ever know.
We are back here at last for Misfits, not Disfits, versus Dignitas here for game number 2. I think all of our players are ready at last, and the draft should be upon us. The battleground is, in fact, here somewhere.
Infernal Shrines.
Yes.
If in doubt, always go for that. It's in the game somewhere, almost every single time.
So Infernal Shrines, I mean, we talked about it a bit. We talked about the preference that we may or may not see for those melee assassins. Kerrigan, maybe unlikely. Might happen. You never know with Misfits. They tried it once already.
I guess we're going to see a priority on the Haka now again as well. I mean, by now, Misfits is 9-0 on the hero. He's great on the battleground. You get the control over the shrines too. Have, of course, also the option to always go into the side lanes, get the experience, like the wave clear in. So I would be surprised if the Haka isn't a priority within the first few picks or bans for the teams. But as I said, like, this is one of the maps where we have a huge amount of options.
Okay, well, here we go into the draft of Infernal Shrines. And the first pick, first ban, will be Tassadar on the side of Team Dignitas.
I really wonder for Dignitas if they might not just put a high priority on Medivh, which Snitch plays it about as well as anybody.
I hope you guys don't mind if I bait Twitch chat here for a second and say this is a map that Dignitas have run Murky on in the past.
Oh, jeez.
And this is the Lucio/Murky patch.
It is true. Do you remember how those Murky games went?
They lost every single one.
Okay, thank you.
It's good to point out that Murky does see a ton of play on Quick Match and Hero League, but unfortunately the Pufferfish is hard to get value with a lot of lane clear. And in the pro scene, that is why he is very uncommon, but we do see that Greymane being picked up very quickly here. To Haka, still on the table.
Give me some Tyrael Greymane diving. That's kind of like an old school last summer deal. And the rumblings around this event have been circling around Greymane quite a bit.
Yep, we've seen him quite a lot in this tournament already, but Misfits, they have shown that they have the skill level to pull off some great moves, and the question is whether they're going to be able to combat them with the Tyrael.
I also want to just quickly jump in and say that this is indeed Dignitas having the first pick. So they didn't care about the map. This is something that I feel is important to point out, since we had, especially yesterday, quite a lot of teams that decided to go into the choice of battleground over first pick because they simply said it's important to bring the opponent to a certain map. In this case, though, since both of the teams play roughly similar maps with a slight shift in preference, and we have a best of 5, they said we want to have that important first pick for us.
They're using every second here.
Well, the Kerrigan does come out, not from the team we expected,
Wow.
though. We're going to be seeing it from Dignitas. And that's going to be interesting. They have managed to set themselves up for an incredibly heavy lockdown comp.
It is, and we talked about some of the threats towards Kerrigan, and right now with Tyrael already picked up, it kind of limits your warrior pool if you opt to go double warrior, but one that will firmly be in contention is the Diablo pick, which Misfits has run in the past, and they've actually run it to great effect going back quite a ways, so that could still be a threat. I almost wouldn't be surprised if that might be a ban. They might target it a little bit differently. But taking Mene off the board with a Jaina ban could be coming.
So if we see Jaina banned here, Kaldor, do you think the go-to is going to be Gul'dan, even though he hasn't played as much Gul'dan this season, just for the power when it comes to fighting over the shrines?
This could actually end us in a scenario, depending on how Misfit picks right now, in which like Kalthas would make sense for them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily, I mean, it's just like an option on the map, and because of the player in particular. In normal draft, I wouldn't really jump to that. Other heroes that Mane is, of course, very strong with could also be a Liming for blower potential after the lockdown and stun. He absolutely loves to play the hero. So he has definitely a few options in that regard.
With Greymane, I think it doesn't necessarily push you away from Tychus, but I wonder if with Greymane there, you would opt to go something like that. And it's kind of a tricky thing. Tychus is really good on this map. His win rate, Dread was talking to us about it this morning. I think he's only won 3 out of 10 games so far in this tournament, so not the highest success rate, but it is Misfits and Dignitas, so both played at max potential. I think that's a hero.
There is that Medivh.
Take Medivh for yourself.
Yeah, and a Rhaegar, so they very much set themselves up for a huge protect the Greymane comp, which does still leave them open if they want to, like you said, for a Tychus. They could still run that here.
So I spoke to Dignitas earlier this morning, and we were talking a little bit about just like priorities in general and heroes. They don't respect the Medivh on the side of the Misfits. Ooh. They said that they are really not afraid if Misfits goes to the Medivh. They don't feel it's strong in their team. So this is a perfect opportunity for Misfits to show them that they can still run this. But that was a pretty bold statement, and this already spices the entire match a little bit.
Is Medivh just Hasselhoffs? Because they have played almost no Medivh this season. Maybe one game.
It's been few and far between. I wonder, this could potentially be the Kael'thas pickup that Kaldor was talking about. With Jane off the board, Li Ming is not as successful on this map. And Mene very rarely do you see him on auto attack heroes. He is a... Gul'dan is the other option.
Yes, it was down to those two, I would say, the Gul'dan or the Kael'thas. Both would have been fine, but the Gul'dan just a little bit too good for Mena to go towards the Kael'thas for.
And coming back to your question, it should actually be that we are seeing Hazops on the Medivh. Like like, in general, they are a team where they have a lot of overlap, so that they can be very flexible in the way that they draft and in the way that they play those heroes. But usually, when we're talking Misfits, then Hazops will be seen on Medivh.
And Dignitas did actually finish off with Tychus as well, by the way. So they have something to start working down and something to actually can actually kite Greymane a little. Question is, what can Misfits do to deal with that? A second tank is now slightly less likely due to Tychus. Can still be picked. You can still go all in on that.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of flexibility out of heroes like Darkmok and Nurok, so it's not like you can necessarily force them into one or force them into the other. I think that's one of their biggest strengths. You know, they have such deep hero pools. That's actually something that they talked about and said themselves when we had a chance to sit down with them the other day, is that our hero pools are so large that we can't be banned out and we can play whatever we want.
The Dahaka.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit later than I expected him to make an appearance here, but with the way that the draft went, it still makes sense. I feel it's a good pickup for them. They needed another front line here. They had, of course, a few other options, but the Haka gives them, again, the global mobility. They have the opportunity to just, like, sneak in. And he has also a few abilities to, like, dodge and try to escape them later on.
Yep.
Survivability.
Adaptation is very effective against Tychus. If you can pop it early enough, Tychus does a huge amount of damage over a situation that isn't burst, so there's not a huge chance of you exploding while you're waiting for adaptation to pop. So it can work out well if the Dahaka plays well using his burrow.
Yeah, I think they definitely needed some shrine control as well when it comes to clearing the skeletal defenders. Greymane, auto attack hero, yes, his cocktail build will be powerful, but that's on a cooldown that you're not going to get a whole lot out of around those shrines. So make sure you have good AoE ability. I think that's one of the things that really they were focusing on. That's why I said Diablo, Dahaka, I think makes a lot more sense though.
I mean, how surprised are you that we don't see something like a Varian or a Diablo? Like, sure, Dahaka is there, but in the event you're fighting on a shrine and Kerrigan goes in for the combo, a minion could spawn in front of the tongue, and it's far less safe in that regard.
To be honest, I don't really think that Diablo is such a huge factor in Europe. I mean, it's not a hero that is completely disregarded and never played, but Europe has a much higher focus on other heroes that we've seen already. So that's more of a thing that I feel we see a little bit more in North America.
Well, I said it because Misfits, I think they've actually played it twice this season in their 5 games, and they've played it traditionally in the past. It's got results that are different. It's a different play style, I think, than normal. To further Tetra's point, there is no real lockdown, hard CC for Kerrigan.
All right, it is time for game number 2 between Dignitas and Misfits. Take it away, Gilly and Dread.
Game 2 on Infernal Shrines, and over in the blue are the Misfits. Misfits versus Dignitas. Just a reminder for you, if you're joining us, Misfits did win game number 1 on Towers of Doom, but Dread, it was a crazy game.
Yeah, it was very, very close, and, you know, almost, it seemed like surgical decisions made on both sides here. Very precise movement and strategy. Everything about it was just, it was so high level, I guess. I'm very appreciative of what we got to experience there. But for a moment here, we have a minor screen issue we got to take quick care of quickly. Thank you for being patient with us. We'll get to the game as soon as possible. But now looking towards the drafts that we just got to witness a little bit of. And very cool kind of strategy, I feel like, coming out from Misfits specifically, having that Greymane with the Medivh, Also having the Tyrael, a lot of invulnerability, a lot of die potential coming out from those heroes. And then a little bit more standard coming out from Dig.
Yeah, this Tyrael Gray main protect the Gray main used to be a thing from E-Star. The ones who really, I guess, there were a lot of teams who ran it, but E-Star were the ones who pioneered it, and it was just this constantly, we're going to do everything we can to keep Gray main alive and let him hyper carry. And at that time, Medivh wasn't a possibility, but now he is there to be able to enable him in the same way that Uther would have before, along with Tyrael, and now that frees them up to have Rhaegar to help with things like wave clear and shrine clear.
One thing to know, the biggest difference between that would obviously be the lack of immunity to CC, though. That is going to be, you know, it's kind of like the poor man version, really, you know, of that original strategy that E-Star, I mean, it was a world championship level strategy. I mean, even we saw, you know, it was Tempest, I believe, who won Summer. Won with it. Dami, absolutely amazing there onto the Gray main. And it's high precision. You know, it has to be very, very calculated play. And after we saw from, you know, game number 1, I totally expect to see that from both sides. And, I mean, you know, I always love Kerrigan on Shrines. Absolutely adore the hero. So I'm very excited to see, you know, how Xaylia performs there as well.
It's very interesting to see the drafts, although they're vastly different because we're on a different battleground from game 1. It still is Team Dignitas going for this combo-oriented lockdown. One thing, like you have a combo, ETC follow up, you have things like Horrify to bring people away, Roots and Twilight Dream to be able to capitalize from those combos, and then Misfits with a lot of survivability, just like before.
Yeah, and also one thing we got to keep in mind is we do see the Echo Corruption there for Mene at level 1, so it's not going to be the Q build Gul'dan. You know, I guess the original build would be the best way to put it. I don't feel like we have a standard anymore, so we have that E. They're going to be looking for the stack, but the combo comes out. Xaylia not going to connect there. Darkmok gets the shield.
Hasuab is there, help out, and Nurok gets away, as well as Darkmok. So a nice rotation in from Misfits to keep their members safe.
There's a tough spot when you try to make that type of combo with the Kerrigan too, because when how Kerrigan combo works is actually the distance from Kerrigan itself changes the distance in which it gets pulled.
Right.
And I mean, I guess depending on your preference on the Kerrigan, some are better at long range, some are better at close range. Personally, I suck at the close range, so I can understand why that was a harder combo to be able to connect, but Xaylia has to be on point in this game. You can't pick Kerrigan on Shrines and be unimpactful, especially when it's going to be your first pick, because that's a topic not many people, you know, touch up on, is where you pick a hero in draft, not is just how good are they in the meta, but if you waste your first pick on something that doesn't gain value, whether or not it's I would rather you take a bad first pick and be very impactful with that hero than take a very good first pick and have 0 impact, right? You waste that slot. And so not only is it relevant, obviously, when it comes to the meta, but then Dignitas prioritizing that high. Xaylia's got to be on point here, and it's time. You know, once he gets forward and he gets to the shrine, this is his moment to shine.
The drag on JPL starts to move back into position. And all of Dignitas moving into the shrine for almost here for both teams. JPL dives in, combo to follow, and Roots even to catch onto Blumby, but Darkmok.
Stitch is in a bad spot there. The body block is there. Darkmok just not able to be stopped there with the Medivh shield. Blumby giving him the mobility there from the smite. And Tychus out means that, you know, it's only a matter of time before Dignitas tries to make something happen. They, for a moment, you know, thought it could get cheeky. Portal's going to be laid to scare. I do like the preemptive combo there, thrown, you know, in case it would be just a death ball coming through. But this is going to be the first shrine going over to Misfits from just, you know, small misposition on Dig and full capitalization by Misfits.
As this Punisher starts to push down the mid lane toward Dignitas' structures, there's a talent that I saw yesterday from Greymane for Misfits as well, and that's a Viciousness. So instead of seeing Wolfheart or even to add Perfect Aim to go with the cocktail build, getting Viciousness to be able to increase the inner beast duration to 4 seconds and ability damage refreshes it. So it seems like maybe sort of a safer way to make sure that you can keep inner beast up. Is that what you see from that?
Yeah, and a lot of I think it's more of a safe one, especially with the type of Greymane play that I think we see recently, since we saw, you know, Wolfheart see some numbers since the last time this type of strategy, it kind of got nerfed a little bit. I do think it's going to be a safer decision. Oh, Xaylia there goes for the Q. Barely. Hasuab's going to make it there into Raven form. But then, yeah, we're going to see the rest of the Flash build here coming out for Darkmok. Very standard, and also especially on Shrines. It's probably, in my opinion, the best map for Flask build, purely on the fact that there's a bunch of free minions to be able to throw it. Not only can you get the minions, you just get free poke there every time the Shrine's up.
Yeah, once you get Incendiary Elixir and finish that quest too, being able to lower and reduce the cooldown of Gildan and Cocktail does play into that viciousness. Being able to use that to refresh the duration of Inner Beast and let you have that duration and more attack speed for longer.
One thing we do see here when it comes to talent adjustments in this game is going to be Dignitas. We see the bigger bigger they are, even into the double warrior, it has been picked up for Tychus, which is going to lead to better burst follow-up onto the Kerrigan. I think it's going to be, you know, a better choice here, and it's also going to help, because obviously Gul'dan, his sustained DPS, he's going to be able to make up for those type of tools. So very heads-up adjustments in the middle of this game here for the team. That being said, it means that Medivh Shield, especially post-reabsorption, could get an insane amount of value.
Right.
Like, it's just the amount of damage output you can have there is ridiculous.
You'll have to see what he wants to combo with that. At 13, we've seen so many different things now, like Neo Steel coding sometimes still, maybe if they're concerned about that Greymane damage. But as well, sometimes occasionally you'll see it paired with that stuff still, so if he wants to be able to give himself some self-healing, especially since Malfurion has his hands full with this composition of Dig.
Yeah, and both teams here getting their respective Shaman Camp, timing it perfectly with the map objective. Misfits here with the Dahaka having the global. They're going to be very comfortable in this position, ridding of the Shaman for Dignitas. But Xaylia here, if he gets enough early skeletal defenders, it's going to be hard for Misfits to respond because Dahaka clearing top is going to take quite a while. And it does look like it's going to be, Misfits has a like 15 skeletal defender window where they have to force the fight and be very successful with it. Or it could be another, or it could be the first Punisher going over to Dig.
Nobody moving into position just yet. They're just going to give this one up.
Smart choice, I think, is definitely the safer play there. Darkmok on retreat. Snitch has a nade, but it's not enough to get the kill. And he's going to go and back out here. But Dig, Xaylia doing his thing. They're going to go the 39. I like it. I think it's a safer play overall.
What are they moving toward?
I would
getting
wait till
heroic
10.
abilities?
I would wait towards 10.
Okay.
Just because you don't have a sieging composition that's very effective at this point into the game. You are going to get a Punisher, yes, but like really what are you going to get with it, right? Until you have that kill threat of some of your heroic abilities, you really don't have much. That being said, Misfits is going to have a level time period to try and capitalize elsewhere.
Oh, Mene gets taken out before the roots can go down to try to get him. It's the time he needed to get to safety. Xaylia is even going to be in trouble as Blumpy dives in. Early cocktail already used, so Xaylia stays safe, but it does nullify this Punisher.
Yeah, Ontario trying to find him over the wall there. Very sneaky play. Xaylia did capture the last skeletal defender as Mene went down. But yeah, again, it's just, you know, with Kerrigan compositions, that's why we a lot of the time see it with the Sylvanas, because it not only can snowball the game, but it makes a team that has very little siege suddenly be able to follow up onto the Punisher as it's sieging up to the 4. So waiting till that 10, you are never going to complement your sieging, ever, outside of getting 10 maybe with the Odin, but then more than anything, your kill potential to follow up onto the Punisher with the Kerrigan. And speaking of following up there, Nurok took a lot of damage. Xaylia hitting the combo.
Bloodlust for Misfits.
Holy bloodlust.
Wow. But still sank to make sure that Darkmok...
With the leyline setup, I mean, this is like an old school Zeratul, you know, Zeratul Tychus TAS Rhaegar strategy where you used to just, you know, void the Odin, Archon, Bloodlust it out. I mean, but instead it's going to be the hyper carry that's going to be, you know, Greymane there. And speaking of that, Bakery here, already in a bad spot. The Twilight Dream comes out. Blumby has the sanctification himself. Moshpit is going to be not interrupted there. Four-man.
That leyline seal from Hasuops. Goodness. Even though JPL went in trying to get Moshpit, it went to his death. From that leyline seal, the isolation, beautiful. Misfits will pick up the Khazra camp away from Dignitas from that as well.
Yeah, the mosh pit there is going to be a very long cooldown. Other than that, Dignitas do still, most of their cooldowns will be, you know, longer than the combo between leyline and, you know, the Bloodlust there that we see from them. Beautiful dodge there from Nurok again on the Dahaka.
Cheeky.
Yeah, he is.
How I describe that.
Yeah. Bummy's going to be able to back out here, and Misfits with a 3-0 kill lead has been able to gain control. But again, we have to know it's Infernal Shrines. It's going to be slow. This is how the map works. Probably some of the longest games happen here on this map, and that means we have to consider the late game. Who's going to have it? And right now, the Kerrigan comp is not snowballing very early on Infernal Shrines. This is only looking that much better, though Misfits only has a half-level lead.
But does it supplement with the damage that Gul'dan will be able to put out? Once he has Actual Corruption, he gets Ruinous Affliction from that too.
It could, right? So then the argument comes down to Kerrigan's damage output is obviously not going to be maybe that high compared to what it would be into this early game, but she has to make up for it in some other way, which is either survivability, very, very low in general, she can't do that. Then she has to make up for it in crowd control, which means what she loses in damage, she has to make up for in combos. In a lot of those situations, Gul'dan will be able to aid a little bit, yes, but we're also talking about a, you know, leyline seal, Bloodlust, Greymane, carry comp, right? The damage output that is almost unstoppable. That's if you somehow make it past the sanctification, the reabsorption, all these beautiful zoning control tools that Misfits has. And that makes me very scared here for Dignitas in this game.
Yeah, reabsorption probably the biggest, I would say, scare for Dignitas getting into the late game. There's a drag onto Snitch as he comes out of the Odin. Horrify, though, in the back. Nurok in trouble on this Dahaka.
Twilight Dream lands, ends up getting the kill there. Beautiful lane line seal and the shield sanked on top of it. Snitch is going down. JPL drops the mosh pit, but the dance here doesn't look like the rest of Misfits wanted to join. Beautiful power slide out. Mene here trying to look to get some damage maybe onto the defenders, and another Punisher here is going the way of Misfits, as it doesn't seem like Dignitas has an answer to the comp that we see Misfits, compiling. It is stop you in your place, you have to fight us, how do you deal with us? And when Sanct is there, the answer is we can't a lot of the time. And I'm trying to find where can Dig reapproach this other than, my first thought is initiate, but every time that, the counter initiation is colossal. So then, split sieging. Their composition doesn't thrive in that department either. Where do they make up for it here for Dignitas? My first thought is like only a Dream Mosh. JPL has to somehow find a Dream Mosh in this game, or maybe like a surprise death metal.
Could be death metal. Picks, maybe?
Yeah.
If they watch to see maybe on Dahaka, maybe they start focusing on Dahaka, don't let him be solo soaking?
Yeah, that could be a route they move in that direction, but then you also have the idea of, we just saw Hasawabs was just floating around going, I'm going to control where your team is at all points. I'm always going to know that. And we're already 10 minutes into the game. We've got the fact that we have our Master's Touch completed for Medivh is just...
And Incendiary Elixir.
Everything is looking great here for Misfits. The one positive we have for Dignitas when considering their power spike, if they're going to be able to turn this game around, would solely be on the fact that Echo Corruption is not completed, so it's not, reached his final form in terms of damage output. But when Horrify hits, I really feel like Dig has to confirm a kill, or that's the end of their team fight.
Speaking of Gul'dan build, not getting Ruinous, or you're bound by Shadow to be able to reduce the cooldown of your Corruption instead of getting Hunger for Power, which doesn't decrease the healing you receive from allies on top of that, which is an already very squishy comp.
Yeah, well, beyond the squishiness, I think the loss of damage output onto your E is, honestly, for me, more staggering of a choice when it comes to this talent. It makes him... The 1E has to be the game changer, so much so that, especially post-16, it has to single-handedly change the team fight. And with Sanctification there to stop and, hit the pause button with Leyline, it's another situation where I like the idea of it and I can see the impact, but it seems like Misfits comps is just too well-rounded.
Dig are in trouble. 16 is here for Misfits. They're doing everything that they possibly can at this point, getting a lot of siege here in the bottom lane and even some mercenaries in the mid. But with 16 here for Misfits and Dig a long way from that, they're not going to be able to contest this shrine. So instead, we're going to head probably to the top lane.
Oh. Nurok, there's going to be the burrow. Combo comes out. Beautiful juke is going to land. The root was juked as well. Can anybody get the CC? The power slide is there. Will they get the kill? Nurok walking away. The lust is used. The combos missed. Zayla is down. Misfits turn this fight.
Plumby is on top using Sanctification to continue the jump. Darkbot going after JPL. Portal, Leyline, Seal.
Bakery is going to not make it out of here, and that is not the only one going down. 2, 3, 4 members of Team Dignitas fall. With 16 talents here still in their favor, they have another shrine up here to get another Punisher. Dignitas is just grasping for anything they can get at all. And obviously the answer is don't gank Nurok.
No.
We threw that idea out. I just got the answer because he's got jukes for days. It's Juke City.
I want to mention, because this seems like the perfect point to do so, when we were able to interview Misfits, I said to Nurok, you're playing out of your mind, this HGC. Do you feel like you're at your peak? And he actually said no, he's still struggling with wrist issues, but that he does say that he has this great mindset right now, and that's enabled him to play at the level he has, and he agrees. He's been playing so well, and that is just one of many examples of that.
Yeah, he is very, very influential, and I mean, we even saw Caldor reference it, the undefeated Dahaka of Misfits a lot of the times is going to be into his hands, and it's no surprise. When you look at the numbers and you watch what he just does, is casual 1 versus 5, bait and outsmart the entire
Twilight
opponent.
Dream?
It's just, they burn everything, and there was no answer. But now they're reaping the rewards here. Dignitas is still yet to be able to pick up that 16 talent here. I'm expecting Blumby wholeheartedly to move in here with it somehow using the Holy Ground. This is very likely going to be a Punisher, or excuse me, a Keep Falling now against Dignitas as JPL goes out. There goes the Bloodlust. Dig should, oh man, if they had 16, they could have forced this post-Bloodlust. There is an opportunity. They try.
Cleanse.
Beautiful cleanse.
Darkmark still trying to get away. Jay on the chase, horrifying, and also the Mosh Pit was used, but Leyline Seal to stop.
The Mosh Pit's gonna be there. Twilight Dream ends up connecting. Bakery is just body blocked to death. There goes another shield onto Blumby. He's out of mana. Can they get the kill? The portal is gonna be laid. The leap in, the shield from a deep. He is gonna survive somehow, Blumby. But now the combo. Splinter body blocking his way in. The drag. How do you stop Misfits?
You don't. The answer is you don't. Now, 4-level leading are Misfits. They're heading into the core. 3 members down. Only Gul'dan and ETC left. Mene slowed. May just die because of that portal. Here's the dive. Another takedown. And this is a much more decisive game even than game 1, Dread.
It might not be over, though. Bakery's gonna spawn. Nah, it's a little too late. 26 counting down. Bakery is not up in time. Misfits. We talked about how long Infernal Shrines typically can go. 15 minutes and 20 seconds. 14-1 to game number 2. And it's now looking like everybody was talking about how good is Misfits going to be. They are projected to be the favorites. You know, a couple of teams behind the scenes are going like, a little overhyped. I don't really know if it's there. Did you see them play against Nomia?
They lost the map. It was that one.
Exactly. And I think they just shut out all doubts that we got out of day 1 here. Not a single person is going to be questioning. And Dig, it's going to be a tough game 3, but they have to be fighting it.
Well, let's hear from our analysts how Dig might be able to do that. Jake, take it away.
Man, Misfits just 4-level, curb stomp, bangarang, dominated. I don't even know what words you can use. That was not even close. 4-level lead with teams of this caliber is insanity.
That was a dominant performance, much more different game than we saw in 1. But again, Kerrigan is kind of it's you either win or you lose by Kerrigan, and I'm just it's how the game goes. You win or lose. I don't know if you guys know that, but that's an actual fact.
I haven't seen a draw yet, so you're not wrong.
No, this is true.
Yeah, hey, there's a really cool ability that was used in that game. You guys know what it is?
Lens.
Lens. Oh, the portal?
Yeah, the portal. I mean, they're just really making the plays, helping them get in. Bloodlust, coming out here for the second time of this event, a little bit unusual, but really fun there. Got the effort, got the power. They had the options. When you have, that's one of the great powers of Medivh, is he allows those other supports to find those risky ultimates like Bloodlust that tend to be a risk.
I really love how Misfits really abused the Dahaka with the portal by basically sending him through as a scout. Because a lot of times, Bakery is, of course, going to drop the root underneath the portal. But they just sent through Dahaka. Dahaka has, in case you haven't noticed, a lot of bait potential. Just see how many abilities they drop onto just him if they expect more people to come through, and then send everyone through afterwards to try and clean up.
He's 10-0 now.
He is 10-0.
Wow. So that's that's not just like a couple of games played against lesser teams or anything. Oftentimes when we look at statistics, we have to take into consideration who was beaten by those stats. But when you have a 10-0 throughout the league, and you just showed it several times already against a team like Dignitas, you know that is something to be afraid of.
Yeah, I mean, Keller, you're also saying to be afraid of the Medivh of Hasawabs, and we saw some amazing leyline seals in this tournament.
Well, this one right here, we all turned and looked at each other like, did you guys just see that? As you're going to see up at the top there, 1, 2, 3, 4, and, well, JPL is left out all alone. They weren't able to follow up on that, but when you hit a 4-person leyline seal, we just kind of looked at each other like, that's Hasawabs in a nutshell. He's pretty good.
He is good at this video game, as has been shown. That was actually a really good move by Kerrigan there, saving from the drag. But they just don't really capitalize on it. They can't kill off Nurok, and with adaptation, he just walks through everything.
Yeah, you see this drag on Snitch too. I think this is kind of the beginning of the end. As soon as the drag connects, that's when the Bloodlust comes out. And it's pretty much just so hard for them to combat that when Snitch gets so much pressure put on.
Yeah, it was right after the Odin popped as well, so he was just completely vulnerable.
It was just incredible coordination that they had there. And another thing, I mean, the cast already talked a little bit about it, but I want to jump on it real quickly as well as also, we had go for the throat here over the Cursed Bullet. Usually when we're talking about Bullet being like one of the new things that the teams are playing, it's with the stun setup that we didn't really have to that extent for them here. So it was a nice adjustment. And this is actually a theme throughout the entire tournament so far, that we have really cool talent adjustments depending on the situation. I'm just going to remind you guys of what we had when Dignitas was playing against North America. First game against Zeratul on the Jaina, not having the Frost Armor, huge struggle to keep her alive, and then in the final game, picking that talent up, making it a little bit easier also for the support to just like get that Ancestral hint. So these small adjustments that we are already seeing over the first few games is fantastic.
And it's all about making those adjustments throughout the event. This meta is as diverse as it gets here for Heroes. Let's take a look at this Dahaka gank attempt. The juke, man.
And then Bloodlust to help him escape even more. He gets silenced. And in comes Rhaegar. Bloodlust to get him out of range of that stun. He just turns around and they destroy Kerrigan.
That holy like it just has that 0.5 second look into the future and just can just like react to it.
It was just one of those moments. You saw a good use of Eldruins there to kind of force them into a choke, and then it was able to split the team. So that was one of the key moments in that fight where you saw Tyraos like, well, I'm going to block you from going this because I have Holy Ground. I'm going to force you to go the other way, and then they just collapsed on that choke point and were able to follow up and get kills.
I mean, the Holy Ground alone had such a huge impact in the game. We saw the attack at the bot lane, for example, when Bakery just stepped a little bit too far forward. All of a sudden, Holy Ground behind him, the entire team collapses. Damn. Nobody gets even close at that point. It was incredibly well done.
I like how Jeho just whispers, death.
I said, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, death.
No, it was, yeah.
Well, we can look at the very final team fight of that game where we saw Misfits sealing the deal.
They actually had used Bloodlust right there to make sure and secure the keep. And Dread was talking about maybe they can engage, but they don't have 16, but they opted to anyways.
This is actually, I think, the situation. Now, just wait for that Holy Ground. He's completely stopped out there. There's the Holy Ground. Bakery has no way to escape, completely boxed in. And they just get one kill after another and clean house, have the talent advantage, of course. In addition to that, the escape of Blumby, I mean, that was beautiful.
The Leyline seal into the mosh pit as well. It does not cancel mosh pit, it simply delays it, and just everyone on their team just ran out of it and began focusing on other people. Sweet C's just standing there dancing by himself.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of desperation plays like the gank that we saw up on the top. They committed a lot to that gank. They didn't get it. It backfired. Here, they were down a talent tier, and it backfired again. So it seemed like they started to get a little bit desperate. They needed to make something big happen. They knew that eventually they were going to be fighting down another talent tier anyways. 20 was real close. So it seemed like Dignitas just decided, hey, look, we're going to have to go for it at some point. It's a best of 5. Let's just let's see what we can do here under that, and it didn't work out for them.
It ended with 14 kills against 0, and that pretty much tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, well, I mean, Dread and Gilly at the start of the series, they mentioned a great stat. Dignitas has never lost in a best of 5 on land to another European team. And that's pretty darn crazy. So we want to know what you guys think. Head to Twitter. Let us know if you think Dignitas can bring it back or if Misfits will close it out. We'll be back in just a few moments.
These fools were warned of my coming. For all the good it did them.
Kugan! You will not destroy the Nexus!
Destroy it. Pitiful fool. This realm holds more power than I've ever dreamed.